Thank you so much. This is supposed to be a duel. When I first arranged this presentation, I was going to be showing up here with APS member Professor Kay Kaufman-Chalamet. Professor Chalamet is a dear friend, and unfortunately she had a surgery on Wednesday. So if Kay is watching us on live stream, we wish her a great recovery, speedy recovery. It is a great honor to be here, and I'm particularly honored that I could invite some of my UCSD undergraduate students to come to witness the oldest learned society in the country. And so thank you for welcoming them. So wherever I come into contact with my audience, I ask a simple question. Are you living away from home? Most of us do. Most of us do. I'm an immigrant myself. I lived in China until I was 17, came to America, and had the happiest day of my life in the open shelf library in the University of Texas. Because back in China, I didn't have access to open shelf library. I was raised in a conservatory, and to step into the East Asian collections at University of Texas, Austin, seeing books about myself, about China, printed in English, of course, but also in simplified Chinese, which I was taught, and traditional Chinese, which I was not taught. They told different versions of my own story. And that was probably the happiest day of my life. And I describe it as the transparency of knowledge. That day, I realized that you should have open access to knowledge so that you can shape it, examine it, rebuild it, find connections, and subvert it. Right? So, thank you. I'm going to bring a little bit of my background in Chinese traditional culture. I learned the traditional Chinese, which was not taught in mainland China, by hand copying books. And on the screen are two beautiful characters from the 13th century edition of the Great Learning. The word 大学 in Chinese means university. And it literally means great learning. Great learning. And I want to ask all of us to think, what makes learning great? And that is one question, as a musician, I have to keep thinking about. So as a musician, I have my happy moments as a composer of orchestral music, of operas, of tons and tons of chamber music. And this is me in Carnegie Hall with the orchestra. But the moment that makes me very happy is here at UC San Diego, where now I have a residency at Lei Lab at the Qualcomm Institute. Ramesh is the Qualcomm Institute director. Please give us a wave. Not about the institute, it's about the people I work with. And I'm particularly happy that here at a university campus, I don't feel that I'm just a member of the music department. I'm a member of the whole university. But to be a member of the whole university, you have to earn that membership. You can't just be appointed a faculty of it. You have to earn that membership. And what I did is I found my friends. I found dear, dear friends with whom I can work together every week. No matter how busy we are, we're committed to that couple hours that we call happy hours. And these friends include software developer Zachary Seldes, right here. Please give us a wave. And oceanographer Joshua Jones, also right here. In fact, with all the titles I have, I think the title that best describes myself is I'm the personal composer, tools oceanographer, and the software developer. Yeah. So my journey really started with those moments when I was hand copying books, studying traditional Chinese, and that got me introduced to traditional Chinese treatises on paintings that I was not taught. In fact, to think of it, if you don't read traditional Chinese, how could you even understand what's written on the paintings? And without understanding those words, you have no idea those wise predecessors of yours, your ancestors, what are they telling you, right? So I feel very fortunate. I took the effort of learning those, and it opened up a completely new world to myself. This is a painting done by Huang Binghong, who painted this when he was 87 years old, while he was blind. At Qualcomm Institute, we were able to get the original and did multispectral staining. We did a diagnostic survey in 4 wavebands of the electromagnetic spectrum. So the high-resolution images feature the size of 6 micrometer, which is just about 1/10 of the human hair. So this process allows us to see the invisible. To see the original painting is one thing, but to really discover a new painting, that's the new painting. Out of that one little album leaf, we have 1,800 micro images. Each one is a beautiful landscape painting. And that's what's so extraordinary about that. But the fun doesn't stop right there. This is another example of what a micro image could look like. And this is me standing in front of the restored, reconstructed larger painting now being projected onto the wall of 32 large monitors. Oh, that's really this feeling of riding a drone into a landscape captured by a blind artist. I'm thinking of him as the Beethoven of painting. There's more. We could do UV fluorescence analysis of the painting, and this is a painting with transmission imaging, meaning the light is being projected from behind. That reveals a different side of painting that we're searching for. Places where the painting needs restoration and all the information. But here is where the visual and the audio come together. When we have the X-ray fluorescence analysis of the elements of the painting, I'm going to go a little faster here. We can turn that information into a sonic filter. So we can literally listen to what that painting sounds like. This is how much fun it is to get engineers to work with composers. In fact, we developed this method, not only analyzing paintings, we also work with geologists, another dear collaborator. Well, she's pregnant, she can't come here today, but Professor Emily Chin from Scripps Institution of Oceanography, a geologist, has been working. Doesn't make composing easier, but it's very, very interesting. I'm going to go a little faster. Here is some image of Lei Lab members, and you can tell they're engineers, there's oceanographers, geologists, a lot of software developers. Because when I think about instruments, I don't think about violins and pianos only. My mind is opened by my collaborators to think of the hydrophones as an instrument, the ultrasonic microphones also as an instrument. All of these things are part of a larger spectrum of things we all have to consider as instruments that we need to design, rebuild, so that we can use it eventually to express ourselves. Okay, this is a picture from September 28th, this year. Yeah, almost 2 months ago. My dear friend Josh, sitting right here, sent me this picture. He was at the Canadian Arctic getting ready to deploy a new hydrophone. He sent me this image, said how beautiful the scenery is in the Canadian Arctic. And I sent him this a minute later, because once I know his coordinates, I went to the NASA webpage and found where he was and told him, that red dot is where you are. What I'm telling you is, This is 2025. As a composer, I'm experiencing the world with my ears placed 300 meters below the sea surface because of the hydrophones that Josh and his advisor, John Hildebrand, who's also here. John? There, yes, John Hildebrand. We could experience this world that was completely inaccessible to us. Place our ears 300 meters below, while at the same time watching that sight 400 miles above. That's a privilege Beethoven didn't have. And as a classically trained composer, we used to think of the three big B's in Western canons: Bach, Beethoven, and Brahms, right? I have been completely retrained here, working at this campus, learning how to listen again, listen to these sounds that are captured by these hydrophones in the Arctic. And I have three new big B's: beluga whales, bowhead whales, and bearded seals. Yeah. So what we will do today is to share with you a little bit of the sounds that we were able to explore together in those happy hours that Josh and Zachary and I shared for about 6 years continuously. We listen. We learn how to listen because our minds, our ears are not quite trained to listen to this and process it. To start, I mean, we don't even hear some of those sounds. The sounds that the marine mammals use for echolocation and socialization oftentimes are outside of our hearing range, but they are vital for their survival and communication, right? So we have to learn how to listen to it. And sometimes the fast sounds are too fast. We have to depend on innovations with software developers like Zachary to design new softwares, new tools for us to be able to unpack those sounds for us, making them into materials that we can enjoy, right? But I can tell you this, as somebody who has been teaching music appreciation and music theory for all these years, I need to convince a student who grew up with animation music and film music only the beauty of Bach. If I say, this Bach cello suite is beautiful, I really have to kind of struggle with it a little bit because the students don't really have that vocabulary to understand how to appreciate it. But if I play them the sound of new ice from the Arctic, everybody recognizes how beautiful it is. In fact, I tell the student, you can leave the room. You know, I don't believe in holding my student hostage in my classroom. You can leave. Nobody left the room. In fact, they were glued to the seats. And I think deep down they understand there is something important in that sound. Not only that the sound is beautiful, and this is what I was trying to tell you at the very beginning, we're all living away from home. And when you hear that ice, even though you have never set foot in the Arctic, you recognize that's the sound of our home. That sound is important to us. That sound is beautiful. It's in our DNA, right? So this has brought enormous beauty to our class in a way that musicians, we now have to learn how to address this, how to take that into our classroom so that on a university campus, when music department and oceanography seems to have nothing to do with each other, we actually have everything to do with each other. Sound connects that. It's the sound that connects all these different, very, very important parameters. Of course, we're looking for different things, different information, but it's the sound that connect our imagination, our curiosity, and our expertise together. So, am I running out of time? Okay. We want to leave a little time for a quick Q&A. But what I would like to do, perhaps I should say a few words about the concert that you're going to hear. So 3 pieces will be played, and I'm so honored to be joined by dear friends, string quartets from San Francisco, the Left Coast Chamber Ensemble String Quartet. I'm so glad they're here, and they're going to play 2 pieces. beginning with an arrangement that I made of a madrigal composed by Monteverdi, my greatest hero. I'm pretty sure there's some humanists in the audience here. Yes, Monteverdi. Yes, Monteverdi is my greatest hero in the Western canon. He published this set of madrigals, Madrigal Book 8. I think music history was different after the publication of this book in the 1630s. I was so moved when I was living in Italy for a year. I was in Venice, and I saw Monteverdi's tomb. Fresh flowers were laid on his tomb every day. That's what he means, a humanist and an ultimate experimentalist. Following that arrangement of the string quartet, you will hear my dear colleague at UC San Diego, Grammy-winning pianist Corey Smythe, perform a version on the piano of my piece called 6 Seasons. And with this piece, you begin with the sound of stranded beluga, which in itself is a distress call. Josh would tell you the belugas are really meant to be in groups, in herds. If they're isolated, that's not a good sign, right? So I think this sound itself is telling us something, and there are many meanings. You will hear this beautiful ice ridging sound, extraordinary ice ridging event, followed by bearded seals and beluga whales. And after that, in fact, we have a very special character in the piece. You might not recognize what it is. I'll just tell you, it's a humpback. It's the most beautiful song. Well, Josh and I have been listening to these songs for a very, very long time now. But they're extraordinary musicians. And we can talk for a long time about why that is a song that meets all the definition of what a song is. What is a composition? What is its structure? What is its introduction? What is its coda? What is its consistent elements and things that are variants? Incredibly sophisticated and powerful. Anyways, you will hear a humpback singing in the background. So that's my take of a quick journey through the Arctic with a piece called 6 Seasons. And then after that, you will hear a piece called Gobi Gloria, again, performed by the string quartet. Can I just spend 1 minute talk about this piece? Okay, good. So among many things I do, I'm also a cultural preservation activist. I have preserved Mongolian music. This is my dear Mongolian teacher, Ulanji, in 1996. This is more recent, but exactly 20 years ago, 2005, when I was still a grad student at Harvard, I spent 4 years to produce a CD of this great Mongolian chor player. The instrument is called the chor. And the great Shalashi died during the Cultural Revolution in 1968. And with his death, this instrument has gone extinct. Nobody was playing the chor at that time. But guess what? Exactly 20 years later, now in 2025, this instrument, because of the release of that CD, has come back to life. In fact, it's part of the Mongolian rock band. So I guess that's a sign that it's really coming back to life. People are listening to the CD and starting to pick up that instrument again. So I tell you, a release like this can make a huge difference. Yeah. So that's the instrument of chor. Oh, by the way, this is the Tony Award-winning Garth Fagan choreographer. He choreographed this piece, Gobi Gloria, and it was named in 2009 in New York Times as one of the best moments in dance in New York Times. So this piece has its own life, and I'm so glad that the Left Coast Chamber Ensemble String Quartet can perform this piece for you, and I hope you will like it. That finishes. This is my son's painting for this CD. You can tell he combines Inner Mongolia and oceanography together. Okay, that's it. We can have a little quick question and answer. Thank you.
students. Do we have questions for Dr. Lei Liang? I want to know, while they're formulating questions, I want to know, when you have your students in a class and they're listening to these different experiences, do you ask them to record their impressions in any way? How do you get feedback from them? Because you said that they are riveted to their seats, but how do you get information about what they're thinking, feeling? How do you have them transmit to you?
It's a powerful thing. Listening is a powerful thing. Before you start reasoning, you already recognize something very important is going on. And sometimes I ask the student to do something like this. Can you think of one most beautiful sound that evokes the sense of home for you? And that could be grandma talking to them, could be the domestic sound of, in the living room, something. But it doesn't stop right there. Yes, you can capture that. But the purpose of this exercise is really about unpacking what's in that sound that make you feel home. And that becomes an interesting exercise in itself, because there's a lot of stuff going on in there. And it tells us about ourselves a great deal, a lot of things that we don't even recognize, how important those things are. So I think of this as a kind of a curveball question for my students. Just think of what is most important that you want to capture. Sometimes I call it a sonic self-portrait. But capturing it is one thing. To make something out of it by analyzing it, thinking about it, reflecting it, and reconstructing it. That exercise can usually teach us a lot about. I love having those conversations with the students. In fact, I call them mixers. I have my students sit down with me and talk about things. I learn so much. Everyone is surprised by their own classmates, how much they brought to the life experience that they all can share. Yeah.
Okay.
Are there sounds of nature in Mongolian music? Can you describe them if they're there, like through beluga, through the Arctic? Are there sounds of nature that they've incorporated?
Yes, beautiful question. And in fact, you can tell that music all came from nature. So what we're doing in a way is, yes, the question is whether there are sounds in Mongolia, in the natural landscape of Mongolia, that were incorporated into the Mongolian music. And the quick answer is yes. In fact, that natural landscape is what informs and enriches that music. The vocabulary for the Mongolian musicians to talk about music is full of references of nature. When we talk about vibratos, we talk about the strings, how your finger move on the strings and all that kind of things. Very technical stuff. For them, it's very poetic. They use allusions to wind, water, birds, these things to describe what you're hearing. And a lot of times I think those are perhaps even more provocative, even more precise in the sense that it provokes a very particular sonic image that you can use to perform music. And it brings everything to life. Instead of telling you how fast you need to do this trill, they say, okay, flip it like a bird. Suddenly it becomes something that is very organic and beautiful, right? So yes, it's full of references to nature in their singing and performance, but also in the way that they describe and discuss music. Yes, thank you.
I want to take advantage of the proximity of some of your colleagues, because you talked about the happy hours that you spent with them. Now, I know all of you as faculty members are under pressure to produce and to think and to do all sorts of things. Tell me what brought you back over and over again to these happy hours? What was the magic, sort of the song, the magic juice, whatever? Please, if you could all just hold forth briefly.
That's beautiful.
About this.
I think you've heard me talk enough. Why don't we let Josh talk a little bit, or Zachary? Yes.
All right. Sure. I can answer that question. I'm Josh Jones. I work here at UC San Diego at the Scripps Institution of Oceanography, like Lei said. And my mentor is in the room, John Hildebrand, and there he is. John in his group has developed the means of recording sound continuously underwater, basically forever, in lots of places. And so we have maybe 400 years of continuous underwater sound recordings, and we call those data. We spend a lot of time computing to draw inference from them. When I was introduced by John to Lei, we sat with 30 seconds of sound, and we had a conversation that lasted 4 hours. and what you found, and the care that you held that 30 seconds of sound with, and your just limitless interest in just getting into all of the details of that sound was probably one of the most pleasurable listening experiences of my career. And so anyway, every time I have coffee with you, we sit and we listen to a little bit of sound and much more. Thank you for...
Wonderful. A beautiful epiphany. Yes.
Thank
yes.
you.
On that note, let's... I think we can proceed with the performance. Yes, lovely.
Let's welcome the players to the stage.
Oh, sorry. Bob, yes.
Is this on? Yeah, thank you. I have a question. This is Bob Hauser, University of Wisconsin-Madison. I have a question about one of the most eminent members of the APS ever, the late Walter Monk, who was elected to membership in 1965. And Mary, of course, is here now. And my question is whether he was ever involved or interested in the kind of work that you have done and your colleagues with respect to sound underwater.
I don't think I'm the best person to answer this question. I know Mary's right here, and Josh. Maybe we can pass this to Mary. Yes. Thank you.
Well, Walter was from Vienna, and music was his passion. He had perfect pitch, and the few times that he was able to hear Lei Liang, he was thoroughly engaged and enjoyed because it was so unique, and of course was acoustic from the ocean, which was his other passion.